The overall goal of my companies is to maximize the future of civilization, like basically maximize the probability that civilization has a great future, and to expand consciousness beyond Earth. The image in my mind is of a tiny candle in a vast darkness, a tiny candle of consciousness that could easily go out. And that's why it's important to make life multiplanetary, such that if there is a natural disaster or a man-made disaster on Earth, that consciousness continues. That's the purpose of SpaceX. There will be such an abundance of goods and services because my prediction is that there'll be more robots than people. But if you have billions of humanoid robots, and I think there will be, I think everyone on Earth is going to have one and going to want one, because who wouldn't want a robot to, assuming it's very safe, watch over your kids, take care of your pet, if you have elderly parents.
I've got to say, I do like this new trend in the World Economic Forum in Davos, where you've got leaders like Donald Trump and Javier Milei who go there to essentially mock the globalists and everything they stand for. Let's hear a little of what Javier Milei had to say.
That is why in this same place in 2024, I stated that the West was in danger as a result of having embraced increasing doses of socialism in its most hypocritical form, which is wokeism. In turn, in 2025, I explained the mental parasites sown by the left in humanity. However, 2026 is the year in which I bring you good news. The world has begun to awaken. The best proof of this is what is happening in the Americas with the rebirth of the ideas of liberty. Therefore, the Americas will be the beacon of light that will once again illuminate the entire West.
What do you make of that, Josh? If we are in a civilizational war, can the West prevail?
How do you not love this guy? I mean, how does someone like listen to this language and not just utterly love this guy? I'm talking about the mind virus of wokeism. It's paraphrased. It's a very close paraphrase there. I mean, he went in there guns blazing. Argentina is no slouch as a country, Rita. For a very long time, Argentina was one of, if not the preeminent economic powerhouse in all of Latin America. They fell quite a bit there due to self-inflicted socialist wounds. But under Milei, the economy really has turned around in pretty breakneck fashion. Look, there actually is something of a momentum shift when it comes to Latin America more generally. Chile, which had been governed by a horrific left-wing socialist prime minister, and now they have an incoming very conservative right-wing prime minister there. You see other signs of hope as well, especially in Central America. Obviously, the El Salvador situation when it comes to Bukele is very much a bright spot there when it comes to massively decreasing crime there. So Latin America overall, I would say, with the glaring exception of Brazil, which is run by Lula da Silva, a Chinese Communist Party ally, if there ever were one. With the glaring exception of Brazil, there's a lot of very good stuff happening right now currently in Latin America. And frankly, Reed, I think a lot of this actually is downstream of Trumpian leadership. I mean, this is kind of the Monroe Doctrine, or as Trump calls it, the Don Roe Doctrine. I mean, this is when Donald Trump goes in with the staggering Operation Venezuela to get Nicolas Maduro, one of the great demonstrations of American exceptionalism, frankly, in this century. I mean, it was an utterly staggering operation there to get this narco-terrorist, socialist, tin pot dictator there in Caracas there. So when America leads, a lot of the rest of the Western Hemisphere of the Americas follows there. And I think Javier Milei is, frankly, just an indicator of a lot of good that is still to come.
And he doesn't get the credit, does he, Javier Milei, for what he's achieved in such a short period of time. The economic reforms there, slashing inflation, and he's managed to slash the poverty rate in Argentina whilst also reducing welfare programs. You wouldn't think those two things would go together, but he's managed to achieve it, Josh. And all the so-called progressives who should be applauding, they call him another right-wing extremist.
Yeah, they do, because they just see someone who mouths certain things they don't like, Rita, and they decide that you're a fascist. They don't really care what the results are. I mean, so much of the left here, especially in the United States, that's obviously the country that I pay close attention to, but certainly internationally as well there, they really don't particularly care about results, do they? I mean, think about here in the United States. I mean, gas prices are the lowest they've been in 5 years. And inflation is quite reasonable. The stock market is approaching all-time highs on seemingly a daily basis. The trade deficit's the lowest it's been in literally decades. I mean, I go on and on here. It's really quite good, actually, the American economy. But nonetheless, there is a subjective sense, because the media says over and over again, oh, we have an affordability crisis. It's kind of an affordability hoax, actually. And unfortunately, there are a lot of gullible people out there who, because they don't pay attention to the actual facts and they just hate the individual who is giving a certain policy, whether it's Milei in Argentina, whether it's Trump here, whether it's any number of other conservatives all across the world there. Facts increasingly do not, frankly, change opinions. Unfortunately, we live in a day and age where feelings and emotion oftentimes carry the day, and that's happening in Argentina and to an extent here in the United States as well.
Now, the media has made much of President Trump's faux pas during his speech, where he more than once referred to Greenland as Iceland. I've got to say I've made that same mistake as well. But on a more serious note, what can you tell me about the current state of negotiations and what the Trump administration really hopes to achieve with or without its NATO partners?
So, Rita, personally, I am all in for the Greenland thing. I am like 10 out of 10 enthused at this, actually. I think this is one of Donald Trump's greatest ideas. Now, the Canada thing was classic Trumpian braggadocio. I mean, basically trying to kind of needle and twist and poke fun at our deeply socialist, tyrannical neighbors to the north. By contrast, the Greenland thing is actually very, very serious. And historically, the United States has expressed interest many, many times. A lot of folks don't realize this. America has expressed interest in Greenland, Rita, many, many times in American history. So it was actually William Seward, who was Abraham Lincoln's Secretary of State, going all the way back to 1867, 2 years after Lincoln's assassination. Seward was the first man to actually mull the possibility of trying to acquire Greenland. Harry Truman in 1946, 1 year after the end of World War II, at the very beginning of the Cold War, he made a formal offer. He actually offered $100 million to the Danes to acquire Greenland. He saw, just as Donald Trump sees, he saw Greenland as a crucial piece of territory when it came to the then nascent Cold War, trying to deter Soviet expansionism into the Western Hemisphere. That's how Trump sees it today when it comes to both Putin's Russia and to Xi Jinping's China. So I think that Trump is actually very, very serious about potentially acquiring Greenland. Now, the latest is that he put out a Truth Social post saying that he's going to put a pause on tariffs on the European powers because the broad contours of some deal have maybe been reached. I take Trump seriously, but not literally on this one. Maybe there was a nice phone call or two there. But Donald Trump also pays very close attention to the stock market, and I think he probably was a bit spooked out when the stock market went down after the tariff announcement was made there. So I think that he's I think he's playing a little bit of 4D chess here, if I'm being very honest with you. I think that he still ardently desires Greenland, and I think there's actually a very real chance that when push comes to shove, I think that Greenland could actually become a U.S. territory by the end of Donald Trump's term. Let's not forget, by the way, that one of the last great instances of American territorial expansionism about a century ago, it's now called the U.S. Virgin Islands there in the Caribbean. Where did we get that from? We actually got it from Denmark.